You're listening to The Dr. Chris Show. Are you tired of the short-term patch to your health problems? Is avoiding medications and surgeries important to you? If you answered yes, then your prayers have been answered. Dr. Chris has been helping people transform their health for over a decade. He's a world-renowned health expert who specializes in holistic health. He's a professional speaker, chiropractor, and international best-selling author. It's his mission to help you reach your full God-given potential through holistic health and healing. Get ready to be inspired and transformed. Here's your host, Dr. Chris.
Hello and welcome everyone to another episode where disease takes a dive and people come to thrive. And today we've got the honor of having Tim James, also known as AKA the Health Hero. He has been helping people just biohack their lives to a better future. And he is also the owner of Chemical Free Body, chemicalfreebody.com. He's been doing some amazing things with helping people just on their health journeys. So, hey, Tim, great to have you on, man.
Hey, Chris, it's a pleasure to be here. And I'm excited to share with you and your audience, brother.
Absolutely. So, we want to dive in because I think you have a pretty unique, interesting story on how you've come to this health journey and where you are now. So could you just share with our listeners, where you've come from, why it is you're doing what you're doing now, and just where you're moving forward to?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for that. So I'd go back to my backstory. I actually grew up over in Eastern Oregon in La Grande. I know you know where that's from because
Yes.
It's over by where you're at right now in Tri-Cities, Washington. And I grew up on a cattle and hay farm, hunting and fishing, meat and potatoes, cake, ice cream, candy, standard American diet, played baseball at a high level for 30 years. So I was an athlete. Always thought of myself as that. But, fast forward when I was 37, I got a house, a kids, a mortgage. I'm coaching basketball, football, baseball. And I still thought I was an athlete, but it wasn't working out so well. So I gained over 38 pounds. I wasn't sleeping well. I had my energy was done. If it wasn't for having to walk the dogs in the mornings, I probably wouldn't want to even get out of bed. My health continued to deteriorate. I had acid reflux really bad. The doctors wanted to put me on Prilosec. I just started eating Tums and Rolaids like candy all day long. It was terrible. And then I started bleeding rectally, and that went on for about 2.5 years. So for those of you that are listening, if you can't see me, if this isn't on YouTube, I'm wearing a shirt that says "Love When You Poop," because it used to be a very painful experience for me. And then I got eczema on my elbows. I had eczema on my knee, and I got worse and thicker and dried. And as a financial advisor at the time, I couldn't even wear white shirts anymore because I would just destroy them. I was bleeding all the time. So I'd go over to your house, I'd bleed on your walls. I was always cleaning up blood on people's couches when I visit them. So it was just it's really an odd prospect. Think about it. I'm just walking around, my elbows and my knees are bleeding. I'm bleeding rectally, and I'm not telling anybody about it. I'm just like head buried in the sand, typical guy, stiff upper lip, be tough. Don't worry about it. Well, hopefully it'll fix itself.
Sure.
So then we went on a vacation, and I basically had an attack. I was bent over, doubled over. I had to be driven in the middle of the night from northern Peru to a town called Piura. I was getting examined on an examination table with bugs flying around me in the thing. It's like a third world deal. And I paid into insurance my whole life, but I can't even use the darn thing now.
Yep.
And luckily for me, my wife's at the time's dad was a medical doctor, and he ran a huge clinic in Lima. So they doped me up, threw me on a plane, and I went from a taxi ride right into surgery in Lima. And then I was pushed back in the United States in a wheelchair because I was still recovering. So what I learned from that experience is that my poor health doesn't affect just me. It affects everybody else around me, because we'd planned that trip for over a year. It was thousands of dollars, and we were literally in paradise, and it got cut way short because of my poor health. I didn't know what I was doing. I was eating smaller meals a day. I read all the books, high protein, this, that, trying all this low carb, high fat, this fat. And it just wasn't working for me. And then I had a buddy on my baseball team, Clay Mahoy, got diagnosed with stomach cancer. He went through chemo surgery. He ended up passing away, leaving 3 boys behind. He died 80 pounds under his weight. Looked like he was somebody from Auschwitz. It was horrible, watching him die on morphine drips. And then after that, a good friend of mine at age 43, Charles, got diagnosed with chronic lymphocytic leukemia, which is a supposedly incurable blood cancer. And Charles is like, hey, man, I want to live. I want to see my son graduate high school, and I want to go to father-son weekend with him at Oregon State. We've got it all planned out, and I'm going to go to this place in Florida called the Hippocrates Health Institute. They're a old school natural detox and nutrition clinic run by Doctors Brian and Anna Maria Clement. And I'm going to go do this deal. So will you come with me and support me? And I'm like, yep, I'm in, whatever you need. So in my experience, Chris, my grandma died of brain cancer. My aunt died of skin cancer. They were this horrible things, but these people were older. And you think when people get older, they die of something, but these guys were like my age. They're in their 40s, right? Yeah. And so I thought Charles was toast. He was going to die too, but I was just going along with him to support him. And when I got there, day one, my acid reflux was gone. They basically just put us on a bunch of purified water, green juices without sugar in them, and then raw living foods. And then they started educating people, and they really focused on cleaning out the digestive tract, which is the pathway of elimination and the epicenter of everything, because that's where nutrients come into the bloodstream. So the first class was called Internal Awareness. And this doctor came out, and he was just jacked. He had huge muscles. He looked great. Found out it was his birthday. And I thought he was maybe 40, and he was 50. And everybody at that institute that had been working there 10, 20 years looked about 10, 20 years younger than people, the general public. And I started feeling better. And what this guy started talking about in this internal awareness class was that the average person's got about 6 to 12 pounds of impacted fecal material and mucoid plaques lining the small and large intestine. And we got to get it out. And he pointed at me and he said, Tim, you got 10 pounds of crap in a 5-pound bag. And if you ever want to be healthy, truly healthy, you got to clean it out. You got to treat your body like a car and take it in and get it maintenance. Mm-hmm. So they were selling us on enemas and colon hydrotherapy sessions. And for those of you listening that aren't aware of what colon hydrotherapy is, you basically sit on a tube rectally and water gently goes in and out of your colon for an hour and it cleans you. And it wasn't something that I wanted to do at all. In fact, I remember elbowing Charles and saying, hey, look, I came here to help you, but I am not doing that deal.
What did you sign up for?
Yeah, man, it was completely, there's no way I would have ever went to that place. Like, I thought vegetarians were fools. We made fun of them. And this place was all plant-based and vegan. I would have never set foot in it. But I started feeling better. And they started showing pictures of like a 24-year-old woman with MS and colitis. And internally, her colon was nasty. It was like yellow and brown. And then they showed a 64-year-old male with prostate cancer and Crohn's disease or whatever. And his was nasty in there and yellow and white and all this crap's in his colon. And then a 55-year-old woman with breast cancer and parasites, and the parasites are crawling around. I'm just like, oh shit. He's like, all these people eat the standard American diet. And I'm like, oh my God. And then I realized, because it hit home, I'm like, that's probably what my colon looks like or worse. Cause I'm a mess. I'm bleeding already. They're going to see blood in mine. Mm-hmm. I'm worse than those. And then they showed pictures of healthy colons. So long story short, I was the first one on the list signing up. The next day they weigh me. I do the colon hydrotherapy deal and they weigh me again. I dropped 10 pounds of impacted fecal material in 1 hour on that colon hydrotherapy deal. And it changed my life forever. And I never looked back. And the record at the Institute, one woman did a colon hydrotherapy session and she had 27 pounds of impacted fecal material in her colon. So we have to see things as they really are. We can't have rose-colored glasses and all this stuff. And when you're polluting your body on a daily basis, and a lot of it's not our fault, it's the food system's been hijacked. We've broken our connection with nature. We're not picking food and eating food like every other creature on this planet. And we let an industry take our food, grow it in nutrient deficient soils, spray it with chemicals, pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, larvicides, harvest it, process it, radiate it, pasteurize it, box it, can it, put additives in it, synthetic chemicals, all this crap, and then cook at high temperatures. We eat it and we wonder why we're falling apart, right? So it's really easy. You just kind of get back to nature. And I had, in the beginning, I was like, I had night sweats. I was irritable. I had all these issues in the beginning, the first few days. But then I woke up on Thursday morning, dude, and I felt like I was 19 again. I literally had electricity flowing through my arms. I felt my arms were tingling. My mental clarity was amazing. I looked at Charles. I said, dude, do you feel as good as I do? And he's like, yeah. I said, you're going to make it. You're going to live. I've talked to all these people around here. We're going to do this. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm going to give up all meat except for bacon. And I'm going to do most of this plant-based thing with you. And we're going to go home and you're going to beat cancer. And that's exactly what happened. We went home, we implemented the lifestyle, we got clear on our objectives, and he transformed himself and so did I. And in 2.5 years, he was cancer-free.
That's awesome. What a journey. A lot of people think that it's just pure luck if someone survives cancer or gets themselves out of a chronic situation. And it just comes down to doing the right things, having a plan and putting in the work. And you definitely put in the work over the years to become the expert in these areas that you've been doing, and actually practicing what you preach is huge. I'd rather take advice from someone who is actually doing the things, looking, feeling, acting like I want to act, versus the doctor who is, 40 pounds, 50 pounds overweight, smoking, never exercising, doing all these things. And so when we look at what you're doing with this chemical-free body, what's really your motivation behind your company, the chemical-free body, chemicalfreebody.com? And what are you doing with that to help people basically accomplish what you and your friend have accomplished over the years?
Well, the real motivation was I started feeling good, Chris. I started feeling amazing. I came home, I implemented the lifestyle. I started flooding my body with water. I never taken Tums and Rolaids since. The acid reflux was gone. I had what was called leaky gut syndrome, where you get these little microscopic tears in your intestinal tract, and then undigested food particles and microbes get in there, and they cause inflammation internally or systemically in your bloodstream. And then it could lead to headaches, cancer, Hashimoto's, whatever. So I was able to heal that up in 60 days. I dropped all the weight. The eczema on my elbows was gone. I could see my ribs again. It was crazy. I went from larges and extra larges down to smalls and mediums like I was in college. The huge patch of eczema on my knee, though, that took about 8 months for that to clear up. I also had another skin condition on my right shoulder. That was gone in like 60 days. And I just started feeling amazing. So friends would come over and I was telling them, hey, man, like Charles and I are doing this juice and stuff, and he's going to heal himself of cancer, and I feel great. And people are like, yeah, whatever. I mean, they literally thought I was freaking crazy. I'd lost it. Like I was like cuckoo, right? And but 60 days later, when they saw me, and I transformed. I mean, in 60 days, like I'm a new person, right? It's like believing is seeing, right? They had to be seeing is believing. But once they saw me and they all of a sudden I'm 40 pounds lighter in 60 days, they're like, now what the hell are you doing? And then I started telling them, and then they were paying attention. And this guy's like, wow, will you grow some of these sprouts for me? Because I was growing sprouts and wheatgrass, these living foods. And I was like, sure, I'll do it for you. And then he brought his friend Eric over, and he's like, tell Eric what you told me. And this is a little spiel and explained some stuff. And will you grow those sprouts for me? And I'm like, yeah. And then what happened was all of a sudden word spread, and people just started knocking on my door. Cancer patients, people started coming over. And before too long, I had to retrofit my garage into this sprout growing operation. I was delivering sprouts to 40 to 50 people a week and losing money on it. I was a financial advisor. So I was feeding people twice a week. I started doing these classes and then speaking at hospitals and churches and anywhere anybody would listen. I'm just like, look, we have to clean these toxic chemicals out of our body. We got to get our gut cleaned up, drink a buttload of water, chew our food really well, do these basic things, and you can turn your health around with these baby steps and flooding your body with this green nutrition twice a day is what I learned. And you can take your health back. And it's very awesome because when you take your health back, you feel very empowered because you're now in control of your health. You're not like, oh, it's my genetics and that's controlling me. And oh, it looks, it's like there's not much you can do. You're 50 now, Chris. And you know what happens when you're 50? You're just getting older. And that's a crappy way to put it. You really handicap people. It's like bullshit. It's like, I know people that are 80 that can do 30 pull-ups. There's people in their hundreds that are running marathons. What are they doing? What are they eating? What's their environment? So it's like Dr. Bruce Lipton said, it's not your genetics, the genes, it's the environment that the genes are in. If your genes are in gasoline, they're going to express themselves as toxic. They're going to die. But if they're bathed in chlorophyll from plants, they're going to live and thrive, and they're not going to get sick, and they're not going to mutate into cancer, right? So we just have to clear out the toxins, clear out our mind, get rid of all this emotional conditioning, and also drop the emotional baggage that we picked up from our parents and in our childhood and from death and divorce and traumatic stuff. I've noticed in my practice that usually in coaching, I would, think I'm just going to change people's diet and that's going to get it. But 70% of people have these deep emotional struggles, and they're using food as the dope to push down the emotions. So when the emotions are coming up and they're trying to heal, they take the food and they push it right back down because they don't want to deal with it because it's scary. But what I show people how to do is changing their diet, let that stuff come up, cry it all out, do an emotional detox, and you'll feel like you're floating around on a magic carpet. And you're going to feel like Superman or Superwoman once you get these emotional baggage out and you can just set it down and walk away from it. It's very transformative.
Yeah, absolutely. The emotional component of someone's health is really where it all starts a lot of times. And we can eat all the best foods and we can have all the best exercises and the superfoods, you name it, but it's not going to make a difference if we're just basically congested, toxic mentally. Now, with that said, though, on the other side of things, you've mentioned obviously plants a lot. And, we are a big proponent of getting those raw, healthy, from the earth, plant-based stuff in our diets. But you also talk about the mystery of meat that nobody wants to tell, and that a lot of people don't really want to know about. But I think it is important. And while, I don't think that you should have to be a vegetarian, although that can work for people, and some people meat does okay, but it's really about quantity, qualities, everything else. So can you share about meat for our listeners today so they can understand a little bit better?
First off, you have to understand, our motto was, if it flies, it dies, it's brown, it's down. So I grew up hunting and fishing. We were like Robin Hood, me and my buddy, we were killing everything. And it was just what everybody did, right? I was eating meat like crazy. So what you just said is right. So a plant-based diet is very powerful healing diet. Now, some people though are not emotionally ready to go completely plant-based. So if you look at the people that are living the longest, the people in the blue zones, the people in Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Loma Linda, California, what are they doing? Number one, they respect their elders. Number two, they have lifelong friends and they spend time with them. That's why social isolation doesn't work very well. Mm-hmm. Number three, they're moving their body daily. And number four, they eat an 80% plant-based diet or greater. So there's the 4 keys there for magic for success. You want to have a long, healthy life right there. There's 4 things you could implement into your life. And so here's the mystery of meat. So what I learned was I told Dr. Clement, I was like, well, dude, we don't inject our meat with hormones and antibiotics. So if you're buying commercially raised meat with hormones and antibiotics in it, you are setting yourself up for failure. Your meat has been polluted with these antibiotics, and you eat it and you eat it and eat it. Then you go into a hospital and you pick up an infection or something, or you have an infection, and they give you these antibiotics and they're not going to work. And then bacteria is going to eat your flesh away and you're going to die most likely, right? Because you've already built up a resistance to the antibiotics. And most people don't know, Chris, that 70% of the antibiotics that the pharmaceutical companies make are actually given to animals that we eat. So that's disgusting. It's nasty. So if you're going to eat meat, make sure there's no antibiotics, there's no hormones injected into it. Number 3, that they're eating plants, like they're completely grass fed and they're out there. You want to limit the intake. But here's there's 2 things: the chemicals. Even if they're eating organic farm, 30 miles away, there's another farm spraying toxic chemicals in this thing called wind, and they land on the plants, and then the animals eat them. And this is what's called bioaccumulation. So when an animal's eating these toxins, they're bioaccumulating in their fat and their muscle tissue, and it's not leaving. So when you consume that animal, you are consuming every single toxic chemical that was in their water supply and in their food supply. And we know that rainwater today, over 70% of it's acid rain, over 70% of it's got glyphosate in it from Monsanto. And based on the water reports, you can go 1,500 miles into the interior, and these little 2-inch, 2.5-inch fish in these pristine lakes, so-called, are turning into hermaphrodites. They have both male and female organs. Why? Estrogen mimickers from microplastics. So we have tons of toxic chemicals that are in animals today. So when you're ingesting this cow, you're taking in chemicals. So you better have a plan for that to make sure that your body's working well, you're drinking lots of water, and you're detoxing, and you have a plan for that. And we have products that help people do that very well. And then the last thing is that when an animal dies, what happens to the flesh?
Deteriorates.
It starts deteriorating. It starts decomposing. What's breaking that down? Well, it's bacteria. So this was actually a 2012 talk by Dr. Michael Greger called Uprooting the Leading Causes of Death. You can find it on YouTube. And he made a really interesting point that shocked me. He said that here's what it is. When you consume meat, it's not the meat itself that's so bad, barring the chemicals and the antibiotics and all the other stuff we talked about. He said it's the bacteria in the meat. When you consume an animal, the decomposing flesh of an animal, what happens is the fat is collecting, it transports the bacteria through the entire cardiovascular system, and it creates a state called endotoxemia. And this is an inflammation state, and it takes about 4 to 6 hours for the body to regulate that and bring it back down. And then guess what? It's lunchtime and you do it again. So you're creating this systemic or internal inflammation 24 hours a day. If you're having meat, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you're creating this internal inflammation. And we know that inflammation is the cause of all disease. So if you're going to have meat, I would limit it and I cut it back. And when I tell people in the beginning, and they're like, do I have to give up meat? I'm like, no, you don't even have the foundation in place first, right? Let's get the basics in place. Mm-hmm. We go to the diet later. And then all I usually do on the diet is I start getting people on more plants and more fresh food, and let that run its course. We don't take people from 0 to hero overnight. If you want to be plant-based down the road, great. If you don't, and you want to be a little bit of meat, great. You want to be a little bit more meat, it's whatever works. Everybody is individualized and personalized.
That's so important to understand for people that, they really got to understand what they're putting in their body and understanding why they're putting it in their body and starting to create those habits. And if they want new results in their life, then they got to have those new habits and start to create those. And that's great that you can start to help them with what you're doing with the chemical-free body. So what are some things that you can help people with your chemicalfreebody.com and some of the things you guys are doing there?
Well, the first thing I would share with is our core 4 secrets. These are things that people can implement right now that don't really cost anything except for the water, getting your water dialed. So core secret number 1 is drinking half your body weight in liquid ounces of purified water daily. This is critical because, again, I just talked about the fish up in the in the middle of nowhere. They're polluted. The water's polluted everywhere. You have to have it purified. If you live on city tap water, you have to take it another level because the high pressure pipes have coagulated those water molecules. They've made them too big. They're like bowling balls trying to go through a chain link fence, and they don't work well. So the intestinal lining being your chain link fence. So we want the molecules to be small like sand so they can go through the chain link fence, get into the bloodstream, and then have an opportunity at least to get into the cell at that point. So what I did for 8 years, I taught people drinking all this water and people would be peeing it all out. When I learned about restructured water, it was a complete, absolute, supercharged game changer for me. My health went up 3 more levels, my energy levels. I'm 47 today. People think I'm on cocaine because I'm just like a chipmunk. I'm running around all the time because I'm high on water and I flood my body with these nutrients. And when you have purified, restructured water, you're getting about 80% more absorption of nutrients from the food you're eating and from the supplements you're taking. So I'm now getting more bang of a buck from the products that I take, whether they're my supplements or other companies that I use for myself personally. And it's just a good thing. And it really helps to keep your body detoxed when you get that. Because what I can do now is I can drink a quart of this water and it disappears. 15 minutes later, I can drink a quart of this purified, restructured water, and then it disappears. And then about 24, 25 minutes into it, I get high, I get energy, my arms start tingling, just like it did back in Hippocrates. And anyway, so that's number one. Number two, chew your food until liquefied. Well, we have teeth for a reason, to masticate and break down the food. So it's important. But most importantly, you have ducts in your mouth that break down. I give you these enzymes, amylase and lipase, are going to break down your starches and your fats. So it's very important to chew your food well. Otherwise, you're going to have fermentation and gut rot. We want digestion and assimilation of nutrients. And Dr. Gabriel Cousens showed us that by chewing your food and masticating, you're stimulating meridian points in your teeth that can uptake your serotonin by up to 500%. So for those of you dealing with depression, chewing your food well is better than any supplement you can take. Core secret number 3, now that you're drinking lots of water and chewing your food, you're going to start avoiding liquids with meals. Why? Because you don't want to dilute the digestive enzymes you worked really hard to put into the food, right? And you're going to go back to fermentation and gut rot and have leaky gut like I did. So stop drinking liquids a half an hour before you eat, and then wait an hour after you're done eating and drink liquids again. That's for beginners. If you're stage 4 cancer, you're an Olympic level athlete, you want to look and feel your best, stop drinking an hour before, and then wait 2 hours after you're done eating, and then drink a lot of liquids again. And the last one, core secret number 4, is to do some breath work prior to eating. We all live in a stressed out environment, and your body thinks you're in fight or flight mode. So when that happens, the blood leaves the organs and it goes to the extremities. So take a big deep breath in through your nose and pause, and then release out through the mouth. Just let it all go, and then pause at the bottom with your lungs completely emptied, and then back in through the nose. Suspend the breath at the top and hold, and then release out through the mouth. And what you do is you repeat this process for just a minute or two, and the blood will rush back in to your organs, and you're going to digest your food much, much better. And this gives you a time to be grateful for your food and the people in your life, and then the bounty that you have in front of you. Absolutely. Less than 5% of people are drinking the water. Less than 4% of people are chewing their food. Less than 2% of people are avoiding liquids with meals, and less than 1% of people are doing the breath work. This means that we have massive room for improvement. This is the foundation to the course that we teach. And once people have this in place, then there's other things they can do. Our supplements, you asked earlier, these assist. But since COVID is happening, we ship to UK, Australia, whatever. There's been major delays because of COVID. But we have people sending us emails, Chris, saying, hey, man, I feel better already. My energy's up, my mental clarity, my gas and bloating is gone. I'm sleeping better. And they don't even have the product yet. Why? Because they're practicing some of these core 4 secrets, if not all of them. Absolutely. They work.
No, it's amazing. When we start to get just bound into the foundational principles of how our body works, how God designed our bodies to function. If people just pause for a second and don't worry about all the things they could do for their health. I mean, from the colon therapy to the advanced diets to the, saunas, the cold plunging, they just get back to the basics, like you're talking about. Drink water, breathe, chew your food, like all these things. Like it just starts at a simple place, and they can just build on that. And an outfit like yours can help them get to that next level and just keep raising the bar. So, I appreciate everything you've said so far, because you hit right on the target with all these things. And for the average person, not even just average person, but I think you can really group this in, and everyone's answer is different to this. But for you specifically, Tim, what would you say is reaching someone's fullest potential? Like, what does that mean to you, reaching your fullest potential in your life?
Well, I think what that means is that when you reach your fullest potential in life, Chris, you are full. You're happy by yourself. You're happy as an individual. You're overflowing with love. And when you get to that point, now you can go let that love spill into your children, spill into your spouse, spill into your community. When you have somebody that doesn't have that love for themselves and they feel loneliness, not aloneness, that's a completely separate thing. Aloneness is very powerful. It's a good thing. Being lonely, what ends up happening is you have people that have half full cups, and then you get two people that are broken, that are both alone. They come together and it's a facade of that you're not lonely anymore. So I think the most important thing for people to do is to really get to a point where they're happy with themselves, they're full, they're complete. And the way I look at it is like part of that is your physical body, right? So for me, I manifested more of a spiritual practice. I always thought that was woo-woo stuff. I made fun of it because all my friends were doing that too. But guess what? A lot of them weren't happy either, right? And then that life, as they got older, they had health issues. They had problems with their kids. Their kids were doing drugs and all this stuff. And it's just a big facade. We have to just look at things how they really are. Like, okay, things aren't that great. Let's look at them how they are. But they're not really that bad. We can work on this. And through changing my health and cleaning my body up, it opened up my mind to possibilities for a spiritual practice. And that's what's really helped me. And I don't stress out anymore. I don't get angry. I don't yell. It's just a much better way to live.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I think that's great, Tim. I think you did a great job describing that for people for sure. And at the end of the day, we should do something different in our lives. We want different results. So, you listeners out there, check out Tim James, the health hero. Check him out at chemicalfreebody.com. And I'm sure you're probably on Instagram and Facebook, the usuals, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. And if people want to get some of our products, we have 8 of them. So I know it can be confusing in the beginning. I just tell people, go to the products tab, click on the savings bundles. And we have things like a jumpstart bundle all the way up to like what I do, which is the total energy and detox bundle. And I take our turmeric product, which is awesome for hormones. But because I know you've got, this is the healthy hormone, happy healthy hormones show. So you got to get that cellular inflammation down. But pick what you want, whatever feels good. And then when you go to checkout, you type in HHH for happy, healthy hormones, and you get an additional 5% discount from Dr. Chris Murphy here. So thank you, Chris, for putting that together for them. And try this stuff out. And we have a double your money back guarantee. If something doesn't work, call us. We'll find a solution. We'll refund your money. And we just want people to feel better. And the products that we have are just part of the toolkit that we want to help people build. Like the Core 4 Secrets is part of it. And like you said, there's saunas and acupressure mats and grounding pads. And there's all kinds of tools to put in your toolkit, but we want to just start small and work our way up. And I just want everybody to know that all of our products naturally occur in nature. They're highly concentrated extracts that are sun-dried or air-dried under 110 degrees, so the enzymes are active. And there is no magnesium stearate. There's no silicon dioxide, no dicalcium phosphate, no toxic binders, fillers, or flow agents that you're going to find in most supplements. So it's just real food delivered to your door. Awesome, just like it should be. Well, thanks so much, Tim. We appreciate it, and we'll see you around. Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. To get this and other episodes and other free resources we mentioned today, go to newedgewellness.com or listen to the Happy Healthy Hormones with Dr. Chris podcast on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher.